Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my ranking of Doctor Who Series 10 episodes. The episodes we will be ranking are all 12 episodes of the complete 10th series, plus the 2016 and 2017 Christmas specials, The Return of Dr. Mysterio and Twice Upon a Time, which is for some reason a 12. I don't know if that's the episode for that Comic-Con panel, but doesn't say if it's because of extras. So the episodes we are ranking are The Return of Dr. Mysterio, The Pilot, Smile, Thin Ice, Knock Knock, Oxygen, Extremis, The Pyramid at the End of the World, The Lie of the Land, Empress of Mars, The Eaters of Light, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, and Twice Upon a Time. So let's get started with number 14. And number 14, this episode, I originally gave it an 8 out of 10, but I lowered it to a 7 on reflection after the review, and also after its Blu-ray review. And it is the latest episode of Doctor Who General, because Series 11 hasn't started yet, and the latest Christmas special, and the 12th Doctor's final story, and also a multi-Doctor story with the first Doctor, and that is Twice Upon a Time, the only story not featured on the Series 10 Blu-ray set since Series 9. So the first story, the only story out of this ranking. I don't know why it should have been on Series 10, but it wasn't. They released Series 10 before Twice Upon a Time, so we had to get it on its own. Now, with Twice Upon a Time, which is the 2017 Christmas special, as I already mentioned, I liked it a lot more back in December and January when I watched it first and second and third times. However, each time it had gone down a bit in my opinion. And I originally gave it an 8 out of 10. I think that was after the second viewing, was that? I think, to do the review. And then the third viewing was on the Blu-ray, and I, along with the extras, to review the Blu-ray. And it just went down a little bit more each time. So I haven't rewatched it since the third viewing. I probably will be rewatching it again at some point in the future. Maybe again in December doing all the Christmas specials again, perhaps. But or for a multi-Doctor season or another Series 10 marathon if we do it again. I did it when I got the set, so I've watched all the discs as well as this ranking, the purposes of this ranking, and for the Steelbook Blu-rays review. So, and also if my mind had changed on some of them. But yeah, I don't know. The thing with Twice Upon a Time is that it was only made because Chris Chibnall didn't want to introduce the new Doctor in a Christmas special for some reason. It worked fine with David Tennant, but then again, Russell T Davies had already started running the series with Christopher Eccleston. So, because Chris Chibnall's starting from scratch, he's starting from scratch as opposed to introducing a new Doctor in his era. Instead, it's actually the start of his era, and he wanted to start with Series 11, I suppose. So Stephen Moffat, wanting a Christmas special in 2017, decided to write one last episode for the 12th Doctor, and he had the first Doctor appear, and Bill, and it features the Captain, played by Mark Gatiss, who is the Brigadier's grandfather, and it features glass people, which have actually, looking back at it, some really poor CGI. Yeah. And yeah, this is honestly one of the weaker final stories for a Doctor. The problem with the new series final stories are every single New Who final story for its 4 main Doctors, for three of the main Doctors, 9, 10, 11 and 12, putting the War Doctor and also the 8th Doctor's regeneration in Night of the Doctor to the side. We've got the 4 main Doctors and also the 13th Doctor. She hasn't popped up yet apart from at the end of this. But so putting the 4 main Doctors from 2005 to 17, 9, 10, 11, and 12, only 9 has actually had a good regeneration story, and honestly, in my opinion, it's probably the best, apart from Day of the Doctor, which had the War Doctor regenerate, and also the movie, which had the 7th Doctor regenerate. Yes, I prefer the TV movie over Bad Wolf Parting the Ways. TV movie is my 3rd favourite story of all time, with Day of the Doctor being 1. Bad Wolf Parting the Ways is 5th. 2 and 4 are Remembrance of the Daleks and the 5 Doctors, in case you're wondering. So, yeah, 3 regeneration stories, but movie would be, move Day of the Doctor and movie would be the best, similar to how Remembrance of the Daleks is the best Dalek story, moving Day of the Doctor. But of the new series ones, besides Day of the Doctor, the best is Bad Wolf and Departing of the Waste. As for the other 3 main ones, excluding Night and Day of Doctor, there's been a little bit of an issue. I've enjoyed End of Time, but a lot of people didn't. I thought it was alright. I thought it was a pretty good story. My friend Ollie Pajak loves it. A lot of people hate it too, bashing its dead horse body around. Time of the Doctor is the same, except I think a lot more people aren't so keen on it, but they won't hate it as much as they would the End of Time. Time of the Doctor is in a similar spot, but they won't beat its dead horse body over it. However, there isn't that many other people who would prefer it to End of Time. So it's kind of just it's generally considered slightly better. So I think Time of the Doctor slightly gets away with being more preferred out of the 10th, 11th and 12th Doctor's final regeneration stories. 11th is usually considered the better of the 3. And then you got to Twice Upon a Time, which is then, again, an End of Time spot. Some people will prefer End of Time, some people would prefer Twice Upon a Time, but they're pretty much in the same spot. People despise this one, or not like it that much, and there's very few those who would like it. Probably less than End of Times as well. So this has probably now become the least favourite regeneration story, or is set to beat End of Time at that record, and probably considered one of the weakest regeneration stories, if not the weakest. I think my least favourite is Time the Rani, and a lot of people would probably agree with me on that. But most people would probably say this or End of Time. So it's the ones with time in the words. It's probably why Bad Wolf is actually a pretty good story. Any of the ones with time in the title actually seem to be the weakest regeneration stories by a lot of people's opinions. But there are good moments from Twice Upon a Time. As much as people believing Rusty's appearance being not being that much it's a fan moment, but it's not one most people would care about, because he's from Into the Dalek in Series 8. It's one people would either not get or they will not care about. I thought it was great, but I can see why people are pissed off at that scene. It's not as good as the Tom Baker one in Day of the Doctor. I think a lot of people would have preferred something like, well, maybe not preferred something like that in this, but they prefer that scene to Rusty's appearance. The fact that the villains are not actually villains, it's actually quite complicated, but they're also acting like villains to start off with, and then, it's not an evil plan. Motives change. Well, not motive, but actions change. And the last 10 minutes, the first Doctor leaves 10 minutes before the end, and then the last 10 minutes are it's just filler until we get to the regeneration with the 12th Doctor hugging the glass people versions of his friends, and then putting on a very long speech before he actually regenerates. His last words are great, though. I'll give him that. The 12th Doctor does have some great last words, and the speech is pretty good. It is really good. It's typical 12th Doctor. And Peter Capaldi is, well, I would say this for the entire series. Peter Capaldi is fantastic as the 12th Doctor. I think he is probably, him or Christopher Eccleston are the best actors to play the Doctor, although I think Matt Smith is the best Doctor. And Series 10, I wasn't so keen on Capaldi's performance in 8 and his Doctor in Series 8, but it was getting better as it went along. Series 9, it was great. Although the character wasn't done so well, Capaldi was perfect. And then Series 10, both seem to have come together so brilliantly. And yeah, it's pretty much ties that up really well in this one. Shame the story couldn't be better. And the 13th Doctor's introduction, great first word. I'm glad she didn't start with, oh, I'm a woman, or I'm not ginger. That's more likely to happen in the first episode of Series 11. She's going to acknowledge either or both of those. However, the TARDIS crashing scene is once again happens. That's another thing that seems to happen in new regeneration stories or post-regeneration stories. The TARDIS seems to be crashing or something, or it blows up or something. Yeah, you need a new TARDIS set, but you could come up with something a bit more original, Chris Chibnall wrote the last scene as opposed to Stephen Moffat. But basically, we're pretty much all of them since Bad Wolf have had the TARDIS crash or blow up or something. Yeah, but really, all you could do is just decide to change the desktop theme. Pretty much work between the 2010 and 2012 TARDIS is how they changed. And the 2013 to 14 TARDIS, it didn't need to crash in order to change its desktop theme. The 12th Doctor just wasn't able to fly the TARDIS at that time. Same with the 10th Doctor, after 9 regenerated into him, in the minisode Born Again, he was just piloting the TARDIS badly, and in it, you see it crashing at the start of the Christmas Invasion. So anyone who skipped that minisode from end of Parting Ways, start of Christmas Invasion, is probably going to be wondering why Born Again or 2005 Children Need Special. It explains. It's on the Series 2 DVD. If you got the original release, I don't know about the Blu-ray. The re-release, if it has the same discs, should have it. I don't know if the Blu-ray does. Probably does. But if you got the original Series 2 box set that came out in 2006, then yeah, it's on disc 1. Might also be on Series 2 Volume 1 as well, if you want the Volume 1s. Yeah, but with End of Time and this one, the regeneration seems... Well, the regeneration certainly destroyed the TARDIS at the End of Time Part 2 and throughout the 11th hour. But with this one, it just seems to be button pressing, although the regeneration seemed to cause not an explosion, but some problems that set off some explosions and firing the TARDIS. Not sure why. Maybe the 12 was just holding in too long. Probably the longest of all, apart from unless 10's companion tour, last goodbye tour, lasted so longer than we thought. He did see everybody. So, in all, Twice Upon a Time, I will say that the last scene was alright, despite being the same TARDIS exploding or going crazy, and after the Doctor regenerates, and the 13th Doctor is now falling to Earth. Let's hope that Series 11 kickstart really well, because this was honestly a pretty weak end to the 12th Doctor's era, and I probably would say it is the weakest ending of a Doctor's era, of the new series at least, of the classics, maybe also classics as well, maybe overall. Over all of them, although Colin Baker's regeneration on screen, audio, you got Big Finish's The Last Adventure series, but on screen, Sixth Doctor had a pretty poor regeneration and sort of regeneration story, post-regeneration story, and a final story as part of Trial of a Time Lord, or Trial of a Time Lord, The Ultimate Foe, the separate bits. Audio-wise, Big Finish have fixed that. I have to listen to it, but other than that. Other than the on-screen Sixth Doctor regeneration story dilemma, which in audio form has been fixed by Big Finish, then 12th Doctor's final story is probably the weakest of the end of an era stories, and certainly one of the weaker regeneration stories, or regeneration stories, because Time the Rani counts as a regeneration and post-regeneration story, although taking into account Big Finish instead of Time the Rani for the regeneration side, then the Last Adventure story featuring the Sixth Doctor's regeneration at the end, that might be better. I'm not sure. I have to listen to it. A lot of people like it, so I will presume it is better than Time the Rani. Big Finish usually is, from what I've heard. Yep, and also than this, and most of the new series ones. But overall, yeah, Twice Upon a Time, probably the weakest way you can end the Doctor's story. However, it is not the worst entry into the 12th Doctor's era. Hellbent forever. Yeah, it's one of the weaker ones, definitely, but it's not the worst. So, at least we got that clarification. At least we know it's not the worst. At least not for me, personally. And that ends Twice Upon a Time. We now move back in time to Series 10 for the remaining episodes. And for the good ones, the other good ones, and the better ones. Okay, moving on to number 13. I'm going to try and not talk about these episodes too long, because I've just been talking about Twice Upon a Time quite a lot, and I've done reviews for every episode. I really shouldn't talk about them that much in this ranking. It's a ranking. So if I hadn't done reviews, I would talk about them too long, but of course I go too long. Okay, all the remaining episodes are now part of this box set. We go to disc number 4, I believe. Yeah, disc number 4 for episode 8, The Lie of the Land. The problem with The Lie of the Land is it had potential, but it didn't quite get there. On a rewatch, I thought it was really good, but that was an improvement of my previous watching. I think I gave it a 9 originally, and then, or an 8, and then me from the future then popped in to change the score to a 7. I probably would keep it as a 7, like Twice Upon a Time is now a 7. Lie of the Land, I would say, is a 7. But I think it's pretty good. I think it's alright. It is a weak end to the Monk trilogy, but at the same time, it's not a terrible ending. It could have honestly been worse. Hellbent again. But really, every single trilogy they do in Doctor Who new series, it has at least one weak element. You've got the Master trilogy at the end of Series 3, Utopia, The Sound of Drums, Last of the Tunnels. The Dr. Donna trilogy, Turn Left, Stolen Left, Journey's End, Series 4, last 3 episodes. You got the Doctor trilogy, or quadology, including Night of the Doctor. So that's Name of the Doctor, Day of the Doctor, Time of the Doctor, and quadology, add Night of the Doctor. Really, I would have liked to have gone to a quidology and have Deep Breath added there. Really, that could have been Deep Breath of the Doctor, possibly. And then you have the Series 9 one, which is Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, Hellbent, and now the Monk which I suppose is the Gallifrey or Doctor trilogy. Then you have the Monk trilogy. No, the Doctor trilogy would be the Series 7 one. I suppose the Gallifrey trilogy. And then you've got the Monk trilogy, which is Extremis, the Pyramid at the End of the World, and Heaven Sent. Sorry, not Heaven Sent. The Lie of the Land. And if you wanted to, the Doctor Falls trilogy, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, and Twice Upon a Time. Which ones are the weakest of those? Well, for me, the Master one, it would be Sound of Drums, but it's still a really good episode. Utopia would be the best. Dr. Donald 1, Turn Left would be the weakest. Stolen Earth would be the strongest. You could also have the Specials trilogy, the Walks of Mars, The End of Time Parts 1 and 2. Weakest, I personally would say The End of Time Part 1. Strongest would be Part 2. Waters of Mars comes in between, but I haven't seen Waters of Mars for a while. And I would consider it the prequel of my least favourite of the Specials, but I don't think it'd be the weakest story-wise. Series 6, you could actually have a quadology with the Ganger and River Song quadologies, Flevel Flesh, Almost People, Good Man Goes to War, Let's Kill Hitler. Weakest is by far the Almost People. Strongest is by far Good Man Goes to War. For me personally, Series 7, best Day of the Doctor, weakest Time of the Doctor. My sister's singing, probably in the shower again. Don't think about it. And the Hellbent one, Hellbent is the weakest, Heaven Sent is the best of that trilogy. Monk trilogy, Lie of the Land is the weakest. Best is Pyramid at the End of the World, we'll get to that later. And Doctor Falls trilogy, weakest, Twice Upon a Time. Best, World Enough in Time, we'll get to that later. Yeah, I'm not really going to talk about Live Land much anymore because I've just been rambling about trilogies in the new series. So, I'm just going to say that it was good, but it wasn't great. It was alright. Number 12. Number 12 on a rewatch. I don't know. I don't know. This was a writer I was looking forward to seeing coming back above most of the others, I suppose. It was the first classic writer for the series writing for the new series, and it was the one who wrote the final story, Survival, which took me a few more watches to like that one to the amount I do now. But as of now, I think it is a great story. Survival is great, and sadly, Ronan Munro's second script, The Eaters of Light, couldn't match up to Survival. So number 12 is The Eaters of Light, which is included again on disc 4 of the Complete 10th series. Yeah, I don't know. Just didn't really click with me, and I think a lot of other people had the same issue. On Universal's channel, Ollie Everett didn't want to review it because he saw the finale and he's like more engaged with that than he was with Eaters of Light, even though he really wanted that story to review because it was classic Who. Ronan Munro did a Sylvester McCoy story. That's Ollie Everett's favourite. Ollie said the Who Likes End of Time was Ollie Pajak, aka Mr. Titus 11. But with Ollie Everett, he wanted to review that story because classic writer who wrote for the McCoy era, and McCoy's his favourite Doctor, and it's also set in Scotland, even though he's from Essex. And then he did it after the finale, and he was more interested in that, and probably just didn't really care about Eaters of Light anymore. Yeah. If Eaters of Light had been a bit better, maybe he would have been a bit more interested, even with the finale happening. Yeah, and also Matt's score of Twice Upon a Time in his review of Downton Universals, that's gone down to a 6 from 8. So like me, we both lowered our scores, except I've only lowered it to a 7, he's lowered it to 6. And pretty much wants to forget it even exists. Not as bad as Hellbent, but which he despises. And Jean-Luc Harry actually likes Extremis more than he did when he did his review back on it. But Live the Land, I think he's got the same opinions of it as he does in that review. So, yeah, Eaters of Light, it's okay. Enough said. Number 11 is Extremis. The first of the Monk trilogy, and yeah, it's pretty good actually. It's on a rewatch, it's a bit more interesting, including on disc 3 of the set. Yeah, it's a bit more interesting on a rewatch, and it's getting a bit better. It's a bit better, a bit more enjoyable. However, I don't think it's completely perfect. It's okay. Don't know why we have to keep cutting back and forth between the scenes with Missy and stuff. Well, I don't know why we just couldn't have that stuff earlier on. We see the Doctor and Missy, and then afterwards, I suppose it does work, but in another way I do prefer the fact, the idea of having maybe at least half the scene done back then, and then another part a bit later on, the Doctor's remembering, and then cuts back to the end. But that's more of a maybe a 2 or 3 times split as opposed to every now and again. But overall, and it's alright. Also, who was surprised that was Missy in the vault? Not a surprise. Okay, I've turned the light back on so we can carry on with the list with number 10. The last couple of episodes were episodes 8, 10 and 6. But we now move on to an odd number episode with episode 9, Empress of Mars. Again, I think I've seen about 3 or 4 times. It's okay, it's pretty good. It's easily the best Ice Warrior story by far. By far is the best Ice Warrior story, because the Ice Warriors, they're great villains or allies, or just characters in general, they're great aliens, but the stories they're in, they only had 2 writers, for the TV stories at least, but all those stories seem to be okay at best. The Ice Warriors was awful. Matt hates 5 out of 6 of those, well, probably hates all 6, but 5 out of 6 are 5 of his least favourite episodes alongside the Dominators. I think episode 2, he said. I'm not certain, one of the Dominators episodes, and also Hellbent, of course, amongst others, but he despises at the first 5 episodes of the Ice Warriors. And yeah, the Ice Warriors isn't that great. Glad that the animated episodes 2 and 3, and sad that those 2 are missing, but in the same way I'm a vain about Space Pirates 1 and 3 to 6, if they're like number 2, because that one survives and that's fucking awful. Yeah, I hate Space Pirates episode 2. 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6 of that story are as bad. That is the worst story of Doctor Who, hands down. Confirmed. Seeds of Death, which ironically precedes Space Pirates, is pretty great, but there's still a few problems with it. Miss Kelly is completely dull, for starters, and Curse of Peladon, actually really enjoyed it a bit more on the previous watch with when I did the Ice Warrior story, watching the Ice Warrior stories back to back. Monster of Peladon improved, actually, strangely. But then Space Pirates already took over that as the weakest story ever. With just 1 episode over the 5, 6 Monster of Peladon had to go through, 6. And 4 of them were pretty poor. And 3, 4 of them were poor. But I would say Monster of Peladon is second weakest behind Ice Warriors. Then it would go to... Then it's Cold War. Which is pretty good, but it's okay. It's not that great. And then we get to this one, which is another great one. Again, not too brilliant though, but it is easily the best of the Ice Warrior stories. Then it would be Seeds, Curse, Cold War, Monster, and the first story. And why did the laser gun, why did it turn those soldiers into balls? Basically, like bouncy balls. Bouncy balls! The one from Cold War, the laser from Cold War, worked effectively as a sonic weapon. And why not bring back the ones from the classic era? They looked pretty good. If you wanted to go a bit more updated, yeah, do the one from the one in Cold War. I think it shot some lasers a few times. Yeah, do that. Don't know why it had to turn them into balls. You could argue that Ice Warrior technology pre-setting the first story, the first 2 stories, I think the second one came out, it was supposed to be set a bit earlier, pre-setting Seeds of Death for Ice Warriors, the weapons may have changed to their more sonic weapons they use in the classic stories from the laser and ball ones from the old ones, but don't fix something that wasn't broken. You can make it better, but don't make something too different if it didn't need to be too different. It's not like having Cybermen guns in their wrists. That's actually better. Having the Ice Warriors sonic weapons turn people into bouncy balls. That's not my biggest complaint with this, but and it does the same thing as Cold War, with the fact Mark Gatiss tries to make you care about some characters one way or another before killing them off unnecessarily, just to have a death count. These aren't people we care about. Well, apart from that guy who was going to get married, and he was pretty much thrown in the line of fire by his superior, Catchlove. That was a dick moment from Catchlove. I do like how dickish well, I don't like Catchlove being a dick, but I do like how it's portrayed, how the actor does it. He does really very dickish. Yeah, I'm glad he gets killed off at the end, and by his superior rather than an Ice Warrior. Okay, we're going to round up this part with the next two installments, and then we're going to do part 2 with the remaining 7. So this is coming to the end of part 1. Number 9 is the first episode of Series 10, The Pilot. Included on disc 1 of the set. So we've finally done all of the disc 4 ones with Empress, Eaters and Lie. So we're moving on to disc 1. And The Pilot, the very first episode. It is really good. But not terribly great. It's really good. It's certainly better than the last ones we just talked about, but it's not that great. Yeah, it's really good. That's what I'm just basically going to say. That's really good stories. Introduces Bill really greatly and seems to be mostly focused on her for the majority of the runtime, as well as her relationship with Heather, who becomes the pilot. And yeah, it's a very nice story and very well done. And yeah, and Nardle's funny in this. Yeah, Matt Lucas is very good, and Peter Capaldi is really great. Bill Pelmacki especially shines as Bill, and yeah, it's a pretty nice episode. And so that's really all I got on The Pilot. We can go. Now go to number 8, Smile, which is the second episode, and yeah, it pretty much picks up the story arc with this really good story. Again, it's pretty good. We're coming to the really great ones of the series now, and yeah, it's a very good futuristic story. Bill's first trip into space, aside from the chase segments of The Pilot, and her first time on an alien planet, apart from that one in The Pilot, and her first aliens, apart from The Pilot and the Daleks. And the Muvalans, kind of. But yeah, and she meets the Vardy and the Smile robots. And yeah, this is actually a pretty dark story, considering this is Frank Cottrell Boyce, who wrote In the Forest of the Night, one of the most child-friendly stories, although that's still got a PG somehow. Maybe if it's the Tiger. So that one didn't get a U. Only one new series story has gotten a U, and that's Rise of the Cybermen. And that's new. That's episode, not minisode. So apart from Rise of the Cybermen, we haven't had a U-rated story since probably the Colin Baker or Sylvester McCoy era. Probably Colin Baker with the Mark of the Rani. I think maybe one of the McCoy ones got a U, but I think all those ones are PG as well. Yeah, Smile actually is pretty dark and quite gruesome. I think that's why it got a 12 rating. And it's a pretty good story. Frank Cottrell Boyce improved and outdid himself with this story. So I wouldn't mind him coming back for a third go if he can do something like this again, although maybe try to keep it a bit more PG, but I don't mind the 12. And yeah, if he does something more like this, then In the Forest of the Night, if he comes back for a third go, then I'd be fine. I'd be fine with that. See why in my movie comments review, when Ollie Everett posted his film when Frank Cottrell Boyce had been the writer, I think that had been a joke because In the Forest of the Night, but because Smile hadn't happened, just didn't want we kept him anyway, but we weren't so happy about it. Actually, no, we changed it to Ollie himself. Yeah, but after seeing Smile, we could trust Frank Cottrell Boyce with writing it, I suppose, but Ollie's idea, so he gets to do whatever he wants. But yeah. Number 7, Episode 4, Knock Knock, which is included on disc number 2, along with Smile. And I actually watched this twice since getting the Series 10 Blu-ray. This is also the only episode I did not see when it actually got aired on telly, because I went to see Ollie Pajak in a play down in Hoddesdon. Anything Goes. It was very good. And then we watched Knock Knock. I think that was the only one we missed when it actually got aired. Sorry about that. I do want to keep the ratings high though. But on the Blu-ray, I had seen it. I saw it twice more. I wanted to see one with the vinyl edition as version, and I didn't really get much of a difference between the original and the vinyl editions, unless I didn't really get the vinyl versions. I didn't click the vinyl version. I don't know what I did around that, but it did sound pretty similar, so I don't know. But I will say that watching it the second time, I did pay a bit more attention to it than on the first time, because the first time I was a bit distracted because I was getting some stuff for the future reviews. So wasn't paying attention that much, but I do like the story. I thought it was pretty good. I think it was lower on my series preferability back after I saw it and after the later episodes, but now I think it's a pretty good one. I don't think it's terribly great, but pretty good. It's a pretty good story. It's alright. No, it's better than alright. It's pretty great, and David Suchet does a great turn as a villain. Yeah, pretty great episode. Number 6 is the other of the two 2016 of the two Series 10 Christmas specials, bookmarking the series. The 2016 Christmas special, The Return of Dr. Mysterio, which is on disc 1. Some people would consider this the weakest of the Capaldi Christmas specials and one of the weaker Christmas specials. Well, apart from the fact Twice Upon a Time exists, Last Christmas and Husbands of River Song were good. I will say that. And I rewatched those recently as well, because Christmas specials. And doing a Christmas special ring around December. And yeah, they were pretty good. But Husbands of River Song, which I actually watched back in December as well as in January with the Blu-ray. So again, like Twice Upon a Time, I saw it twice as well as beyond the original first time. Two times within a short amount of time, although Twice Upon a Time that was more free because the first being rewatch, Blu-ray watch. With this one, it was rewatch, Blu-ray watch, and yeah, it is a really great story. I don't know why people don't like it this much. I understand when it was going to be the only episode of 2016, people were they weren't so keen on the Christmas specials. They didn't like the idea of the Christmas specials. Ollie Everett did an entire short film that had him getting really annoyed about Christmas specials, him not liking them in the end, and finding his love for them and having the enjoyment of them, and then his review of the story actually turned out positive. I think most people did. Some people hated it again, so I didn't understand the hatred for Christmas specials. I can understand why some people may not like them, but not to the extent of the hatred that of the reputation they have. And when I actually went through all of them in prior to Twice Upon a Time, I found most of them really enjoyable. I found them really fun and entertaining, and that's the bloody point of it. And Return of Dr. Mysterio, I consider to be the second best of the Christmas specials after 2005's The Christmas Invasion. Yeah, it's that great. I really enjoyed it. I found it really enjoyable. Had some great characters, great story. It was just really good and well handled. And I think most people were put at ease afterwards. However, there were still a lot of people who don't like it. And for some reason, it is, on some polls, it is put as the weakest of the Capaldi specials. Which I will never get. I think it should be the highest. The weakest is probably Twice Upon a Time over here. So you've got the other two in the middle. I would probably say Last Christmas is better than Husbands. So, and I liked Husbands a lot on the first time round. I thought that had been the best one since Christmas Invasion. But since then, that's gone down. That's gone down quite a bit. This one, on the other hand, when I saw this one, I thought, yes, this is the best one since Christmas Invasion. And this one has not gone down, in my opinion. In fact, it might actually have gone up. It's not as good as Christmas Invasion, but elsewhere, it's gone up. So yeah, Return of Dr. Mysterio. Really don't get the hatred for this. I do, however, don't like the fact we don't get to see the Harmony Shoal plan carry on. We seem to have their plan. They seem to be defeated, but one of them has escaped in a unit guy's head. Are we going to see them again? Nope. Well, I don't like that, actually. Sorry, that's the wrong way. I'm just disappointed we don't get to see them again, even in Series 7 or Twice Upon a Time. But, like the Robot Santas, not having a third appearance, although the robot forms cameoed in Pandorica Opens, but we're just going to have to live with... But not the Robot Santas in Voyage of the Damned, they got the host instead, or any other story besides the cameo in Pandorica Opens. So, oh well. So yeah, that's the return of Dr. Mysterio, the 2016 Christmas special, and by far the more superior of the two Series 10 bookend ones, like how Series 9 ones are, 2014 and 15 ones are, Last Christmas and Return of Dr. Mysterio, Husbands of the Song are bookends to Series 9. Out of the bookends of the Series 10 ones, and yeah, this one is the better one. And it seems to be the first of the two that seems to be the better. And Series 7, you've got two bookends and one in the middle, and also another special, but that's not Christmas. You've got Doctor, Widow, Wardrobe, Snowmen, and Time the Doctor. The best out of those three is easily Time the Doctor. Those are the three weakest Doctor Who Christmas specials, but by far the strongest is Time with the Doctor over as Doctor Widow Wardrobe, which is pretty boring for most part, and Snowmen isn't that great. And also, I suppose the next Doctor in the End of Time bookmarked the 2005 8 to 10 specials, but Part 1's a Christmas special. I would say Next Doctor is better than both of them. Weakest would be Part 1 of End of Time. Anyway, moving on to number 5, which is Episode 3, Thin Ice. Like Frank Cottrell-Boyce, I believe Sarah Dollard has written her second story has been an improvement over the previous one. She wrote Face the Raven in Series 9. I thought that was alright. A lot of people loved it, mostly because Clara died. I thought it was okay. Plus the fact Clara died, that was alright. Yeah, I don't think it was handled brilliantly, but it would have, and I think it would have been handled better if she hadn't come back in, as she did in Hellbent. It's wrongdoings get more and more bigger. They get bigger. I think it would have been better if Hellbent had ignored that bit, but on its own it was alright. But Face the Raven was okay on its own, and part of the trilogy it was pretty okay. But it's the middle one. It's the middle install. It's the first of the trilogy, but it's the middle in terms of ranking. Here, Thin Ice is a great story. This is a really great one, really interesting. The people disappearing on the ice, the fish that are put into the pies. That was clever. The poo that is used to be the new fuel source, and how this dickish rich guy is pretty much doing this entire scheme just so they can get more of this. And the funny joke of Bill going, "No shit." Yep, this is definitely a PG for language. Contains language. Although I think it cuts off when she does say it. But yeah, that was a funny scene. And the Doctor punches the villain in the face. Fantastic. Fantastic scene. Brilliant. That was a great moment. More of that, please. Just the Doctor getting annoyed at someone just for a few seconds and giving him a piece of his mind, just like in the John Pertwee era. Something Tom Baker's Doctor lacked early on into his era, although I think by Seeds of Death, he did. Next Seeds of Doom, he did get a bit angrier with some people. Which is good, but Genesis of the Daleks, I think he should have given some of those idiots some piece of his mind sometimes. And anything else about Thin Ice? The elephant was funny. That was a great way to smile and start Thin Ice. very William Hartnell-esque. And yeah, I think Thin Ice was a really good story. So yeah, and that was from disc 2 of the set. That's all of the disc 2 stories now, and disc 1s and 4s. We're coming on to a disc 3 story. Number 4 is episode 7, The Pyramid at the End of the World. And by far my favourite of the Monk trilogy, although when Jacob C. Rose did a Universal's guest video, he gave a brief summary of his opinions on the series 10 episodes, besides Return of Dr. Mysterio and, as it was in July, Twice Upon a Time. And he did basically the pilot to Dr. Falls. He said that Pyramids at the End of the World was the worst one. For some reason, he only gave him a brief blah 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 reasoning, although one or two of them were a bit longer. But he called this one the worst. I honestly thought it was one of the better ones, and I think I'm in the majority, I think a small majority, at least, on saying this is the best of the Monk trilogy, and is not a bad episode. Then again, I did think Girl Who Died, who was a pretty great episode at the time, and then that's gone lower and lower. This one I do think is a pretty great one. It's a very good mystery, very good methods on the storytelling and how it works. I did notice the bit with the I Am the Doctor theme being played. That is a slight problem with the terms of the editor or the Orban composer Murray Gold. For someone who edited that bit in, they should have put the 12th Doctor's theme in or something, because I'm the Doctor. That's Matt Smith's thing. This is, a lot of people were getting annoyed with the fact that it was still being used in the Next Time trailers in Series 8. So, yeah. But it's only a small little bit, so it's nothing to get a knickers in a twist, but people who can notice it will get annoyed and mention it. But they won't get the knickers in a twist, but they'll have a moan or two. So it's a small complaint. Yeah, I think it's handled really well. I don't know why some people, like Jacob, don't like it. Maybe they can give fuller thoughts. So if Jacob, if you're watching this, can you just a reason why you don't like it? You don't have to do a full-on thing like Harry Thomas Pictures and Jack McCulloch do. They do full opinion, almost like the review length ones in the comments on some of Ollie's or my reviews. Just say one thing. Let's say, I don't like this episode because blah 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 blah. Chop. Stop. Reason, but don't go into detail. Just unless you want to add a little bit more about why, give a little bit more explanation. But don't go into review standards. That's something you can do for yourself in a video. Anyway, so that's Pyramid at the End of the World. We're now on to number 3. This is where we get really interesting. Now, my third place choice had been my first two were very easy to place, but all the other episodes in the ranking have been tricky, and the most tricky to place was the third place one. But I decided on this story above the others besides the two for the top two, and yeah, similar to how Twice Upon a Time I eventually ended up putting it lowest, I ended up putting this one highest besides the top two. And this one is Episode 5, Oxygen. Once again, Jamie Matheson knocks it out of the park with his 4th Doctor Who script, the 3rd one without Stephen Moffat, because his 3rd one was Girl Who Died, but that was a co-write with Stephen Moffat, and that's probably the weakest one he has done, even with her. And that may be partly on Moffat's fault, but even if not, it still would be the weakest of his 4, because the other two were Flatline and The Mummy on the Orient Express. In terms of episode released, it's the other way around, but in terms of him writing, it's that way. So Mummy and Flatline, they were fantastic. Girl Who Died was great. And Oxygen, another brilliant one. So yeah, can we please have Jamie Matheson back? I don't think he's got to be Series 11, but can we have him back for Series 12? Sugar Chibnall, please? he's certainly one of the best writers of the new series, and at least of the Capaldi era. And yeah, he does really great stories. 3 out of his 4 stories are beloved, and the only one that isn't really is made probably due to a co-write. And even if that was only for a few scenes, like the end, towards the end. But still, yeah, and Nardole gets more to do. This is probably his most active episode since Return of the Doctor Mysterio, and before the finale, although he does quite a bit to do in the Monk trilogy. But until the finale, this is probably his most active episode of the series since Return of Doctor Mysterio, and probably the most active overall prior to episode 12. I would say episode 12 is his most active to do. And also putting Bill and later the Doctor in vulnerable positions. And yeah, and it's pretty much like with Patrick Troughton's era, Base Under Siege story, which is always a great thing. And it's also pretty much a horror story. All 3 episodes on disc 3. Disc 3 are 12 rated. And that is this one and Pyramid, and also Extremis. So we finished disc 3's episodes here. So, and yeah, it's a pretty great story. And the ending, that was a request on Moffat, so that he can use that in the Monk trilogy. The I'm Still Blind, that was a great idea from Matheson, and obviously Moffat loved it so much he had that in Extremis and Pyramid, which he co-wrote with Peter Harness. So he didn't touch Tony Whithouse's Lie of the Land, and that somehow managed to be last. Somehow be the weakest of that, and also the weakest of the series, bar Twice Upon a Time. Because we usually have a go at Moffat for one reason or another these days. Yeah, he really should have done another Blink. Not a Blink sequel, just a story like Blink. Another good story, or Empty Child, or Girl in the Fireplace, or Science in the Library, or 11th Hour. He does some good ones from time to time. We're about to get onto such a story in a moment. But most of the time he's ridiculed for stories like Hellbent and Let's Kill Hitler and others, Sign of the Daleks, and so are many others. Okay, let's move on. Okay, we're finally here. We're on to the top 2, and I think you guessed which 2 these are going to be. Because these are honestly the most popular 2 episodes of the series. Oxygen probably comes a close third as well, to be honest. I think Oxygen's a pretty popular episode, and then the rest are up for debate, apart from possibly Twice Upon a Time. But these 2 are fucking awesome episodes. These are 2, I probably would say they probably do make it into my top 20. I don't think they make it into top 10, because it's a very solid top 10 list. But top 20, I think these 2 they make it. They just make it, and they're fucking awesome. Number 2 is episode 12, easily the best series finale since Parting of the Ways. The Doctor Falls. This is easily the best series finale since Parting of the Ways, and I fucking love that one. Although I do love Doomsday, I do like Last Times, I do like Journey's End, I do love Big Bang. When the song was alright, it was pretty good. Name the Doctor was great. Death in Heaven was pretty good, and Hellbent was utter shit. So yes, easily the best episode. But easily the best finale since Parting of the Ways. It's not as good as Parting of the Ways. That's, like I said, Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways is 5th over in my ranking. This one is somewhere in the top 20s. So it's somewhere in the teens. I'm going to have to sort that out. But easily the best finale episode. So fucking good. Yeah, we got the Sidemen. And we got the Sidemen again for the 6th time in episode 12. Pandorica opens. Closing time. Nightmare in Silver. Darkwater cameo in Hellbent. And the Doctor Falls. They're in every episode 12 of the Moffat era. And if you want to go overall, they're also in Army of Ghosts. So, but in a row it's 6. 7 overall. And also episode 3 of Revenge of the Cybermen for season 12. And episode 5 of Will in Space in season 5. Episode 5, that's one. Silver Nemesis is and Will in Space are the penultimate stories of seasons 25 and 5 respectively. And yeah, I think that's about it. Nerve Shock is the penultimate of season 19. The penultimate story, not episode. So yeah, Cybermen usually used as a penultimate episode or penultimate story reasoning. In case of Nightmare in Silver and Closing Time, they were penultimate stories as well as penultimate episodes. Yeah, but they are used pretty good. It is a shame we don't get to see more classic or previous designs of the Cybermen, and the idea of them upgrading is good, but I don't know why they just bring out some of the older costumes like they do with the Daleks. But maybe then again they're costumes, not props, like the Daleks. So, and then you probably wouldn't get they probably would get damaged in the stunts and explosions. But on the other hand, they made a new Mondasian Cyberman one. It probably would have been a bit too much work to recreate ones from, let's say, Earthshock. But that's alright. They could, on the other hand, they could have taken out the 2006/10 designs, the 6/11 ones, the 11 one losing the C on the chest plate for most of them. Could have removed those and just had it being the Mondasian and the Nightmare in Silver ones, which is basically Moffat era ones when they decide to change those eventually. And yeah, I presume Series 11 will get a new design of them if they come back. If not, then sometime later on. Same with the Daleks. When they come back, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And yeah, Nardal does quite a bit in terms of defending the little village, and he kind of gets a love interest in the form of Hazaran, Alice the girl. Hazwan, the woman, seems to have taken an interest in Nardal. And yeah, Bill becoming a Cyberman, just the bits around her are great, and her ending, at first I thought it was cringy, but worked. Rewatches, it was nice cringy. And worked really well. And the fact that she came back in twice upon a time, actually I wasn't so worried about that, because it eventually turned out to be memories of this. It wasn't a Clara situation. They didn't bring her back, and even if they did, Bill was a puddle as opposed to a moment in between seconds just before her death. You'd have to go back eventually. No, this was a memory, and even if it had been actual Bill, it would have been puddle Bill. So yeah, and if this had been the 12 Doctor's last story, this actually probably would be one of the best regeneration stories, alongside Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways. And yeah, this would have been a fantastic end to the 12th Doctor. It's a shame Chris Chibnall didn't want to start the 13th Doctor at Christmas, and it's a shame Moffat's actual last 12th Doctor story just couldn't be like this. It had to be Twice Upon a Time. It couldn't be like this. Because I think this would have been a great ending to 12. But as it is, it's more of a penultimate story. Oh well. It's probably the best penultimate story of a Doctor's era. I know a lot of people will love Waters of Mars. No, and I forgot Day of the Doctor exists. That's my favourite. Okay, second best then. Second best penultimate story. And yeah, I just bloody love this story. And we're not finished talking about it yet, because number 1 is the first of the two-parter. Dr. Falls is the second. We're now on to number 1, episode 11, World Enough in Time. And this one is the best episode, the best penultimate episode, because I actually prefer this episode over Bad Wolf. It's just because Parting of the Ways exists, is the fact that two-parter is better. Army of Ghosts I love, Sound of Drums I like, Stolen Earth I really like, Pandora Opens again, really, really like, and we ignore Series 6 and 7 because those two are not two-parters, but we can say that Closing Time was good, Nightmare in Silver was pretty good, Series 8, Dark Water, dark but interesting and pretty good, and Heaven Sent, actually that one might be the best one. Okay, Heaven Sent's the best penultimate episode. This comes a close second, but Heaven Sent is partnered with Hellbent. So that's then Bad Wolf Parting Ways is the best two-parter. Best of the two. And then this one. Yeah, this one is fantastic. Just bloody-tastic. Even more awesome than Dr. Falls. Whilst Dr. Falls was a bit more action-based, this one's a bit more horror. Building its suspense. This is looking at the origins of the Mondas assignment, or at least one version. You've also got Spare Parts, the audio, which I've not heard, admittedly. But I would say Spare Parts is the origins of the Cybermen of Mondas. On the spaceship, there and now, we've got their own version. So we've got two different versions of the Cybermen's Genesis. And you could pretty much have them for those two separate bits. So don't cry about Spare Parts not being canon, people. Don't boo-hoo like Matt did at the start of his Well Enough in Time review. Don't boo-hoo-hoo. That could just be one... That could just be on Mondas. That could be their versions. And some people with that knowledge could have gone onto the spaceship and used that knowledge to help build the first Cybermen on the ship. And then you've got the ones there, plus the ones on that ship. Most of them are either blown up, or once they get to everybody else who's on the ship, where are they going to go afterwards? Then are they going to go back to Mondas so we can have the 10th planet? I don't think so. I think they're pretty much stuck on the ship, or I think they're going to be stuck there until they somehow make their way through. And even by then, I think 10th planet would have taken place by then. I don't know when this is set, but presumably it could be set before the 10th planet. But they might not get off the ship until afterwards. That's my theory. I'm just saying that I think these Cybermen are different to the ones in the 10th planet. Plus, you've also got the upgraded versions in Part 2. So, yeah. In fact, this might even be in the future because they know about the upgraded versions. So, I think Spare Parts is the Mondas version of Genesis of the Cybermen. And then you've got the spaceship version for this group of Cybermen in World Enough in Time. So don't cry about Spare Parts being uncanon. It is. It's still canon. You just got two Genesis of the Cybermen now. Okay? Okay, good. Okay, other than that, it's really tense. The actual origin, the actual way they built it up. We already know the Cybermen are going to win this. But the way they build it up, it is super... It is pretty dark. This is probably the second darkest episode of the show after Dark Water. That was a pretty dark one, and that was a Cyberman one. That was pretty dark. This one is probably the next darkest. It is really creepy, and the fact they got to get away with it a second time, or at least this thing. I don't think many people complained about this one as much as they did with Dark Water. But yeah, this one is really creepy. And really well done. Rachel Taylor and Stephen Moffat really do great jobs when it comes to this angle of Doctor Who. And yeah, it's very brilliant. The idea of the time being slower, the further back, the closer you are, but moving faster, the further away you are. And the fact that it's because the ship's reversing. That is a brilliant idea. And yeah, and the Master is brilliant in both stories. Both Missy and the Master, they're brilliant. Johnson probably gives his best performance in these two episodes as the Master, as Michelle Gomez as Missy, who has been great to watch throughout Series 10. And Capaldi at his best once again in these two episodes. Pearl Mackie probably at her best as Bill, Matt Lucas as Nardal. And the guest actors and characters are really great in their roles, especially in Part 2. But for Part 1, it is the Doctor is not the Doctor. As in, the Doctor at the hospital. He's pretty creepy, and that nurse can be a bit intimidating, I suppose. If there was anything I wasn't so keen about, it's probably I would say the only thing would probably be Missy trying to act all hip and with the kids and the dad. Well, I think that was Michelle Gomez that I did that bit. And it looked like she was going to be doing that. She was going to be a bit silly. But things got serious when that guy came out with the gun and then he shot Bill. And then things went darker. So yeah, things started silly, but then it got dark, and very quickly as well. And yeah, and I think it achieved that really brilliantly. So yeah, it was pretty much a perfect episode. Or at least a near perfect episode. And yeah, easily the best penultimate episode of the show. Of the new series, just under Heaven Sent. Poor Heaven Sent can't be in a league with this one and Bad Wolf Parting the Ways as a term of overall stories was Hellbent. That is an awful episode. So that I would really put that 2-parter halfway on the list because it's pretty much the best and worst of both parts of the finale. So that was more of a halfway point. But this one and the series one are the best two, easily. Best two overall 2-parting finales. You've got the second best penultimate episode and the second best finale episode in this series. With series 1's having the best finale episode. I would say Bad Wolf's probably the third best penultimate, although Army of Ghosts is a really good one. Has a Stolen Earth. And yeah, so series 10, ending on the second best penultimate and second best final episodes of a series. You have us the second, automatically it's the second best finales story. It couldn't be the best because Bad Wolf Parting the Ways. But this is the next best one. This is hands down second best. And it's a bloody good one at that. It's a bloody awesome second best. And so I'll just go through my ranking once again for those who may have forgotten. Number 14 is the 2017 Christmas special, Twice Upon a Time. Number 13 is episode 8, The Lie of the Land. Number 12 is episode 10, The Eaters of Light. Number 11 is Extremis, episode 6. Number 10 is episode 9, Empress of Mars. Number 9 is episode 1, The Pilots. We've come a long way since then. Number 8 is episode 2, Smile. Number 7 is episode 4, Knock Knock. Number 6 is the 2016 Christmas special, The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Come a long way from that as well, because that preceded the pilot. Number 5 was episode 3, Thin Ice. Number 4 was episode 7, The Pyramid at the End of the World. Number 3 was episode 5, Oxygen. Number 2 was episode 12, The Doctor Falls, part 2 of the epic finale. And number 1 was episode 11, The World Enough in Time. Fan-fucking-tastic. And also, disc 5 of this set has the last 2 episodes on their own. Disc 5 is automatically the best disc of this set. Weakest disc, I probably would say 4. I actually enjoyed the fan show bits, so I would say that actually would be better. In terms of the episodes, at least, 4 is weakest of the 5 ones. Maybe slightly better than... Is it slightly better than 6, or would 6 be better? I'm not certain. That's personal preference, by the way. I know a lot of people hated the fact the fan show full episodes were on the disc, as opposed to maybe Twice Upon a Time or extras or bonus features or something. Oh well. So that's it from Series 10. That's my overall ranking. What do you guys think? Comment below in either of these 2 videos. And stay tuned for future videos. I'll be reviewing Collateral Episode 4 soon, and then I'll do a short mini ranking on that series. It's only 4 episodes, so it won't be as long as this. And what did you think of Series 10? Check out the reviews on the Universals channel from me and my fellow Universals. I only did the pilot, admittedly, but I've also done reviews of every single episode as well on my own channel. The pilot one is more of a saying that I've done it on the Universals, so you go and check the link below to that. Ollie Pager Everett did the Return of Dr. Mysterio, Smile, and Eaters of Light. Matthew Moyes did Oxygen, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, and Twice Upon a Time. My sister's singing again. Owen Smith did Thin Ice and Empress of Mars. Try not to break this. I did say Smile. Ollie Everett did. Yeah, he did. Smile and Eaters of Light, sort of. Return of Dr. Mysterio. Jean did the Monk trilogy, Extremis, The Pyramid at the End of the World, and Lie of the Land. And Travis did the Travis did Knock Knock. And yeah, and I did the pilot, obviously. And yeah, that's it from Series 10. Go check out Universal's reviews, go check out my reviews. Jean's done his own reviews, at least up to episode 5. Go check them out. I don't know if he did, and also Twice Upon a Time. I don't know if did he do Return of Doctor Mysterio? He might have done. Anyway, that's it from us, from me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne YouTube channel.